Awesome. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. Today, we are hosting a community feedback session on some new exciting features that we'll be launching in the coming months this year. And these are paid group memberships and paid tracks. So, a little bit more about this. Paid group memberships will give group leaders, group stewards the ability to host paid groups. So, members will be asked to contribute to sustain the group on Hilo. Paid tracks, we've already launched tracks, which are learning journeys on Hilo. And now we're going to be giving admins the ability to charge for these courses or this content. So a little bit about why we're building this. We've had a lot of folks want to transition from Mighty Networks or Circle to Hilo and continue to sustain their content through resourcing from group members. We also want to give admins the ability with all the content they're sharing, the tracks they're sharing, to be able to be in reciprocity with group members. So this will be a completely optional thing that admins can opt in, members will opt in for, but we also want to help these group leaders sustain their groups and also in turn sustain Hilo. So a little bit more about the call today. We'll be sharing some designs, some of our thinking behind these features. Aaron will be showing some of the designs that he's been creating, and then we'll have a lot of space for questions that we have and feedback from you all. So that's a little bit of the flow of the call. And I think it's also important to add, we want to thank Novo Foundation, who are helping us fund these features. And this is a part of our bioregional feature spec. So thank you, Novo, and thank you all for being here. Again, we always love to build features in community with you all. So your insight, feedback, and perspectives are really appreciated. So I'm going to pass it on to Aaron to run through some of the designs that we have. And throughout this, we'll also be walking you through our thinking process and some of the features that you might not see in the designs, but what the flow will be like. So passing it to you, Aaron.
Thank you, Krisha. Hi, all. Good to see you all, and nice to meet those of you who I haven't met yet. I am Aaron. I'm the designer here at Hilo, and I'm really excited to be showing you all this and eager to get your feedback. There's lots of questions we have, and yeah, this is a big shift in focus for us, so we really want to make it work well. We've been hesitant to bring resources or money through Hilo, building in the money tools for a while, because it comes with all sorts of thorny pieces. And so, yeah, I'm excited to dive in with you all. So what I'm going to be showing you is the experience of joining a group at first. Let me share my screen. And I'll also I'm going to share this in the chat. Um, so if you want to look at the Figma in your browser instead of this screen share. Okay, cool. All right, so here we are in the Group Explorer. Um, and here's a list of groups. I've scrolled down and there's something new in this list. There's price tags. I'm going to click on 916 and that opens up this group. Um, Here we have a couple of options to join. One is a yearly option. This is not the final design. This is just to show the kind of flow and get your all feedback. And then if I choose one of these options, I go into the experience of paying, which is going to be handled by our payments provider, Stripe. Um, that's the experience of joining. Now we're going to switch perspectives to the group leader. And this is a group that has not had or offered any paid content yet. And we have the option to have paid membership or separately to receive payments for tracks. And this really highlights some of the flexibility that we're hoping to offer, which is that not all groups who are going to offer paid content are going to want to charge their members. And likewise, not every group that has a paid membership will have paid tracks. Okay, so now I've selected enable paid group membership here. And now I'm going to see the settings for paid membership. I've clicked this button, add a group membership tier. And so I'm adding basically when you go to check or like go to a software product page and you see the 4 different options, that's what we're calling a tier. Each option is a tier. You can name the tier, you can select a type of payment. So it could be monthly, one time, or yearly. And then separately, you can say whether or not that payment should be considered a donation or not. Now, we're not going to be offering tools necessary. We're going to be offering tools like to show the list of transactions and the history of who's paying what, but we're not handling whether or not somebody's a nonprofit. Basically, this is mainly about whether the payment is a voluntary payment or whether it's a required payment. And then you set the price. And if it's a monthly payment, you can add a second price, which would be an annual price. This is a pretty common feature these days to, where is that? Oh, I guess I took it out. But it's a pretty common feature when you're shopping to, especially for software or memberships, anything that's recurring. As a sales technique, a lot of people are offering a toggle, which is basically like you see the monthly price and then you can opt into a yearly price, which is charged all at once. It's a much bigger number, but it's a yearly savings amount. And then we can add a discount code or multiple discount codes per tier. For instance, if I'm starting a paid group, I want to offer my best friends a way to get in for free, I would add a discount code Aaron's best friend. And then finally, roles. When it's not required, but when people purchase one of these memberships, we are going to be giving people the ability to award a role for that person. So, this could be a role with powers, or it could be just a, more of a badge type situation. And then down here, we have our payments integration. Stripe makes it super easy to sign up and receive payments. All you have to do is go in and copy the key, and that key will be used by your group to manage the transactions. And then when you've set a price, okay, so this is one idea, and this is one of the things we need your feedback on. But this design that we're seeing is a model where Hilo takes a percentage from the group leader of revenue. There's other options, which is Hilo charges a monthly fee. That's what Mighty Networks does. Mighty Networks charges a monthly fee plus transaction fees. And one of the options we're considering is just transaction fees. But there's a number of different options there. The main thing I'm trying to show here is that whatever the options we go with, we want to have transparency about how much it's costing, how much revenue will you get, and so on. And then up here, we're on the settings page of paid groups and tracks. And and there's revenue and payments. We haven't done this side of the design yet, but basically this will be a place where you can see how much, how much resources have flowed through the group this month, who's paid, and so on. And I think that's what I want to show right now. And I'm gonna copy this. Okay, cool. All right, I guess I already did share it. Great. All right. What do we
Cool.
want to talk about next? Tibet.
Um, yeah, I'll jump in and just cover some of the stuff that's not yet designed. I will share this very in progress kind of requirements document that we're working on of uh, all the pieces to this feature set that we're thinking about, and you can feel free to add comments there as well. And then we'll get to the questions at the top in a moment. But I just wanted to mention a couple more things. All of this is like stuff you would expect when dealing with membership subscriptions, payments. You may want to adjust your prices in the future at some point. And so what happens when you do that? We want to make sure all the members of your group consent to that. So we'll send notifications to everybody. Well, next time they come back to the group, there'll be a pop-up saying, the fees have changed. There'll be some grace period, probably a minimum grace period that we'll build into the platform, but then you could choose to have a longer grace period. And yeah, make sure people have a chance to consent, of course, before their payments change. We're also considering, of course, we would want this as an eventual feature, but in this first version, whether we can build in the ability to grandfather in people at the old price if the price changes. So that's a question we're still thinking about. Handling refunds, things like that, where a lot of this can be handled by Stripe, which is really nice. They do a lot of the back end for us. So, but we will have interface, within Hilo to be able to handle all these pieces. If someone has a lapsed payment, we want to make that really clear, send notifications to the stewards of the group. We're thinking about how, in that case, they can't really interact with the group if they've stopped paying. Next time they come back again, it would pop up and say you need to fix your credit card or whatever it is. But we're thinking about kind of graying out people's names in the group. So, like, oh, if I comment on this person's post, they're probably not going to be able to respond because same if someone has left the group, but yeah, just indicating that they are no longer present in that current moment. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think there's too much more we need to go through in terms of features. I'll mention for the members themselves, there will be a whole section where you can, in your sort of My Home, in your settings area, where you can see all of your current paid groups and manage your payment methods and get notifications for renewals, see receipts of past paid content, stuff like that. So we'll have all of those important core features. But definitely, let us know if there's something we're missing that you need. Okay, that brings us to the interesting part of this call, which is our questions for you and feedback and input. And I think we'll start, or I guess, yeah, maybe we'll start with our questions and then open it up to sort of general feedback. And they're at the top of that document, but I'll also put them kind of one by one in the chat. And we'll start with this kind of juicy, interesting one, which is around the Hilo business model, because this is the first time that we are going to be, that we'll have transactions flowing across the platform. We think it's a great opportunity to implement our first real business model besides donations to Hilo and sort of priority support. And, people can pay us right now for onboarding support and things like that. But yeah, we want Hilo to be a sustainable platform. And so we're excited to start implementing business models that are aligned with our values that feel ethical. So yeah, we have this question of like, what would land best for you as group stewards and feel most aligned with Hilo's values in terms of our model? One option is a fixed fee that we charge, as Aaron showed, X% of the transaction comes to Hilo. And we think that we would kind of take this out of the group, what the group steward would get. Of course, they could raise their prices and pass it on, but it makes more sense to us to have the steward is the one that's implementing the payment because they want to make money from their group. Let's have the Hilo payment come out of that instead of being tacked on to what the individual user is paying. These are all sort of and or, right? Like we could implement one of these models or multiple of them. Another option is to charge a fixed monthly fee to groups, again, as Mighty Networks does. It's like if you want to offer paid content, you have to pay us $20 a month or $30 a month. That provides some really nice baseline for us. And then finally, there's asking for a donation from the individual when they're paying, and that could start at a fixed percentage suggested tip, and they can potentially change that or move it down to 0. That's something we could add on to either of these business models, but we want to be fully transparent about all the different fees to everyone involved, of course. So yeah, that's our first question. Would love input on that. You can raise your hand. David.
Yeah, it looks good. I like this. I think I like the percentage model because I don't know, it's incentive and it's kind of like it allows things to scale a little bit better, and then you're just invested in the success of the groups directly. And then the tip options you get too for the user side. They want to add on something that's nice, you can offer it. Yeah, but all looks good.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm realizing that we could have a tip as an option and just start it at 0 and then allow people to add. Simon.
So I like it. I like the thinking. I think possibly percentage, and or maybe with a threshold. So maybe just have the donation as the default from an individual, but at the point a group has passed a certain threshold of revenue, effectively, that you might then want a percentage coming in. And I guess the bit that I'm mindful of is a lot of startup groups are in the same position that Hilo in from their own organization in terms of starting up. You've got to get off the ground with enough critical mass to kind of then start, and it is really hard. The other bit, and I get this is possibly not for this question, but there's an element of question around tokenomics and kind of engagement in terms of where members of groups might be engaged and communicating and supporting with their time in terms of managing the environment. That you might want to offset that against the cost of what their subscription might have to be.
Like that.
Totally. Yeah, and it's sort of the initial easy way to manage that is with discount codes, but I do think more sophisticated tracking of value flow over time is something we're excited about, and whether that's through an internal platform currency or something like that, would love to get into fun stuff like that eventually. Alicia, I saw your hand, and then I think it went.
Yeah, I'm just sort of thinking and like reflecting on what other folks have said. I think there's like an interesting like balance to be found between like thinking about what Hilo needs to sustain itself and grow, and also to actually like cover the admin and like transaction fees and costs, like the actual point that you need covered financially, and then like what you might need to grow. And then when I think about like a fixed monthly fee as like a smaller organization that might be starting out, there might feel like a barrier to entry there, right? That only like a larger group could meet. So then there's like that tension of like allowing people who are just sort of introducing payments to be able to do that in a way that's sustainable for them. And then for our organization, which is like actually quite large and we want to keep growing, I feel some sort of like worry about like, as we continue to grow, we just pay more and more and more. And is that like so much that actually like, is that amount of transaction fee necessary? So it's like these like three levels to like sort of balance, and I don't
Yeah.
know the answer, but that's just what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
We can certainly adjust the fees based on the sort of quantity. Yeah, definitely a good important thing to think about. Thanks. Anita. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. With the smaller groups, to not have a monthly membership seems like the way to go. And to be able to have a percentage, then those groups can charge what they decide they want to charge and know what they need to make, and then just kind of figure it out that way. And I think larger groups, maybe there's an option that they can have a monthly fixed fee and a lower percentage fee if they have a monthly. So they are incented to become a paying member at a certain amount for the lower fee. If that makes sense, percentage fee.
Yeah.
I like the idea of asking for an extra donation. It's just a bonus. And if people are so inclined, lovely. That's grand. Having options is great. I like having the tiers. That's fantastic. And the larger organizations may very well want a monthly fee if they get a lower amount or no percentage fee, depending on what you're charging.
Mhm.
Cool. Love it. Just make it so many more things to think about.
Yeah.
That's great.
Great feedback.
That's great. Aaron, were you going to go, or should I pass it to David?
Go, David. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I have like a lot of questions now, like, because I was just thinking like, who's the target audience for these paid groups? Is it like consultants? Are there people doing high ticket offerings on there like they are on Mighty Networks and other stuff? Or are they facilitating more community groups, which would probably have a much lower budget? So I'm kind of curious about the target market and also how much it costs to run Hilo, and if like this is supposed to be the revenue for Hilo as well, or if you're going to continue to look for foundation money or kind of like community supported technology, foundations, grants, that kind of stuff. How do you see Hilo sustaining itself with this versus all the other ways of like community supported?
Great
Well,
questions.
there's the market that exists right now, right? Like for yoga teachers, art teachers, like people who are sharing a gift with the world. That's a pretty big segment.
Educational content.
And right, yeah, exactly. And then there's yeah, sort of those like high ticket coaches you're talking about that are like, charging $1,000 for a course where they up level your career or whatever. So those are people we would love on Hilo. And then there's also an emerging audience or market of people like bioregional organizers who are wanting to charge money and pool money and spend it together. And so this goes to the other half of what we're working on right now, which is collective budgeting. And so that's a market we're also very more actively excited about because it's kind of like a new way of coordinating resources, or what we see as new. Obviously, people have been pooling money and spending it for eons, but building those tools and enabling more smaller groups to pool their resources and spend it together. Dues will be one of the ways that people could do that. And as for your second question, sort of like, is this our going to be sustaining high-low in the future? We had a meeting about this last week, and we'll continue to have public meetings. I'll invite you to. But basically, we're at a crossroads trying to figure out how to make the leap to the next level of scale and utility and usefulness. And that will mean that resources are going to be flowing through the platform. Whether this specific feature is going to support us, not in the near term. Basically, we have to have 3 to 6 million people on the platform for this to make a serious dent. This type of activity to make a serious dent in the how the platforms run. So even after we build this, we're going to still be in a season of inviting support and perhaps even impact investment. But yeah, that is definitely the goal. And the goal, just like we're hoping to empower groups to pool money and spend it together, we're really hoping and building towards high-low itself working that way. So like, let's say we build all these tools and it generates $10 million. There's going to be a big pool of money for the people of high-low to decide what to do with. We don't know how we're going to do that yet. We don't have the resources to make those legal changes or to instantiate those entities. But yeah, that's some of the thinking that we've been working with.
Right on. That's insightful. Thank you. Should follow it.
Yeah, I put it in the chat too, but we have been working on a bunch of business model ideas and projections for them and trying to figure out what it will take to get to a sustainability as a platform. And so I think we could be ready to share that in the not too distant future. But there's other models, like people want white labeling of high-low. We could charge for that. You know, right now we're basically hosting all the storage of files for free, but we could limit how much storage within a group and then ask people to pay something per month for if they want to like upload big videos or, you know, things like that. So yeah, there's a number of models that we are exploring.
Yeah.
And
because we see high-low as a commons, right? It's like something that is valuable because we all show up to it. Our principle about what should be charged for and what should be free is that anytime somebody's enclosing the space, anytime somebody's saying, hey, this is a private space over here and I'm going to charge money for it, that's an example of enclosure. And so that the commons needs resources from that. They need a cut of the deal. Yeah, and another example of that would be white labeling, right? Like taking high-low out of high-low, putting it on my website. So Alicia.
Yeah, I love that way of looking at it. That totally makes sense to me. And I think like hearing more about high-low's values, I think that the percentage model makes sense because then, you know, the larger the organization gets, maybe then it's supporting its own weight, you know, by paying accordingly. And so, yeah, I think that makes sense the more that I think about your values. And then what else was I thinking in terms of that? Oh shoot, you know, I had a couple of thoughts. Yeah, just that I think, sorry, give me one sec to organize myself.
Take your time.
Thank you. Right. Oh, just thinking about that in terms of our own values at Embodied Astrology. And this is one of the things that we're trying to work towards as well. And part of that is like not having a standardized membership fee. And so when I think about a use case that I would like y'all to consider, it would be that we don't have a standard price for a membership tier. And so it would be like a pay what you can, a minimum to a maximum, or at least a minimum, and then letting people fill in their own amounts. And we have like this understanding that some people are not going to pay at all, and they're going to be allowed into the membership. Some people are paying an exorbitant amount, and that like helps cover the costs of things. And so Oh, right, which reminds me of the third thing I was gonna say, which is I don't know how large Hilo is at this point and how many customers or organizations you're working with. But obviously we're introducing a lot of use cases and some of those are gonna be at the outer edges, right? So is there a way to like have one-on-one conversations with the organizations that you have right now on the platform and say, is this good enough right now? Like, are you willing to consent to this model right now? And then, like as you get more organizations that come on this side of the edge cases or this side, then there's like an understanding that folks will renegotiate at that point.
Right. And I mean, you're one of those people, right? Like, and right now the audience of people who would charge on or who would charge are not on Hilo because we don't have those tools. So, yeah, I'm very curious specifically about you and your needs and like, yeah, orienting towards that. And I'm curious specifically about what you were just saying. That pricing model, that's not a donation. That's more like pay what you want, but it's still a purchase. And
Yes. We have a
yeah.
weird, confusing model where we have
No,
like
that's
we
cool.
have donations as well, and that's like pay what you want donations, and there's like pay what you want memberships. And some people are fine to just support us in what we do on our free tier, and the free content that we provide. Yeah, it's sliding scale. And then other
Sliding
folks
scale,
are
right.
getting things out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sliding scale.
Yeah, we were thinking of handling that just via the donations option, where it's like voluntary and you can choose what. But yeah, definitely interesting to think about. Just to,
Well, I think it is
Yeah.
distinct from a donation.
yeah,
And
especially if there's a minimum.
right. Alicia, what is the distinction within your community? What like is there any difference in how people are treated or what they have access to, whether they donated or paid what they want?
Yeah, so we have like a good deal of like free content that we share like on Spotify and in our blog, and like we're an astrology organization, and so we like give like free horoscopes that are quite substantial and have for like over a decade. And so a lot of people have come to support us on a monthly basis with a donation, and they don't really want to get involved with embodied astrology beyond that. They just kind of want to support the stuff that is free so that it continues to be free for everybody. And then we have like a membership, and we have like events and workshops and all sorts of things, and a community that you could be involved in. And at that point, it's like, okay, there's a minimum amount that we would hope folks would pay, but we're really quite lenient about it. And if somebody messages us and they're like, I don't have the resources, but I'd love to join, we let them on like what we call a full scholarship. And I've also seen cases where folks, people's financial situations change, individuals and organizations, I would say. And so we allow a lot of flexibility for folks to write back and be like, actually, I'm at a point where I can pay 25, 50% of your regular membership. And so we have a suggested amount and then let people pay less or more.
It's a great conversation. I'm going to bring in the next question just so we can get through all of them, but we can kind of keep it flowing as well. And this one we kind of answered ourselves, but there's a piece to it that is still interesting, which is how useful is it to offer tiers of access? I think we've already agreed before this call, like we're going to do this, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on tiers, and then specifically what do they get you? And like the one thing that we know we can offer within the platform is that a tier gets you a role or a badge, which could again just be a badge, or it could have powers. I'm not sure that there's anything we haven't thought of other things that like could happen within the platform yet. And so maybe it's just a description, just a role or a badge. But if there's other ideas for like what could tiers get you, I'd be curious about that, how you would use them. And yes, tiers could definitely cover the kind of different scales to a degree. It's like people
Yeah.
often offer, it's like you're not getting anything different, but it's like I'm a patron, or I'm a, you know, extra supporter, and I'm low income and I can only pay this amount. And, you know, there's that, we can use tiers for that as well. Anita? You're muted.
Unmute. There. Um, in the past, I've seen that used for, you know, you get access, you know, if you pay one tier, you get access to this much. You pay this tier, you get access to a little bit more, and you get access, you get a lot more. And I think some organizations are going to go for that. I mean, it's every kind of organization who could be on Hilo. And so that gives them the option to create that. I don't know if they would have child groups, maybe, that had that designation, so that if they are in that tier, they are in that child group. I'm just making it up, but they need to be able to give those people less or more.
Yeah.
And so how do they do that? How do they do that on the platform? Or maybe they do it on their website and they have different chats for those people, or different,
Yeah.
but it
One
just,
of the
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. One of the ways that we're imagining that people will handle that is through roles. And so there's already the ability to, you know, make it so that somebody with a certain role can see something. But yeah, there's more there, and making that easier and more intuitive is also part of the work, because I mean, roles and responsibilities is not a common pattern across the internet. And, you know, teaching, there's like some work we need to do as a team to like build into the tool intelligence and help to like let people take the leap. Be like, okay, you want to limit the content, you have to, and for your paid group, here you have to set up roles and you have to do this and you have to set up a custom view that does this. It's not very intuitive right now, even though it's, you know, it all works and it's great. Yeah. It's not productized. It's not all looped together into one seamless flow.
If you're, so say one of the tiers is you just want them to see free content, like Alicia was talking about. So they have the badge that is the free content. And so that's all they're going to see. They can't participate in the chat. They can't, you know, they don't see certain things on the site. And then if they're another tier, then they're a community member or whatever you're going to call it. And then they can chat, and then they can do other things within the platform, and they gain trust because they want to participate, as opposed to just being a looker. And so some of it can be based on trust, some of it can be based on participation. Each group is going to have their own designation about what engagement levels they have in their group. So, you know, maybe it's a student level. Maybe that, you know, a certain level of students are at this one level and they see certain things. So,
Yeah, I love that.
I'm noticing the comments that are like feeling the tensions and concerns of just
Yeah,
how
I'm just
money
reading those
creates
too.
weird power dynamics. And absolutely, that is true. Yeah, of course, you know, and I just put this in a comment, but right now, you know, people do need to be able to make a living, right? And charge for courses, or, you know, charge for their services. And the question is, can we, and right now they're using other platforms. They're like maybe on Hilo, but they're using some other platform to handle their memberships. And that's confusing and it's challenging and it's less convenient. and Hilo also needs to support itself. So, having business models that are not charging extractive profit, and are not Hilo will remain free to use, and if we're not orienting towards profit, then I think we can avoid the perverse incentives. But this is our challenge. How can we maintain our values while money is flowing across the platform? Alicia.
Yeah, Krishna, did you want to say something though?
No, I just wanted to bring to light Simon's comments and just have a little discussion around it, but
Yeah.
Tibet covered that, so.
I guess I just wanted to put into the space, I think, an interesting thing that I'm hearing that I've been thinking a lot about as well in a larger way is like Hilo is trying to do something different and like allow for different kinds of relationships to be created online, like created and sustained online. And then we like fall back into like the regular tech things of like how do we create loops and how do we create like one-to-many relationships or establish user permissions. But like, is that going to make sense for the kinds of communities that are going to be taking place on the platform? And like, might you have a different user base than you might at a different tech company where like we don't mind taking the time to set up what relationships look like on the platform, even if that's like setting things up a little slower, because like we're trying to build an intentional community. I'm speaking just for ourselves. I don't really know that much about the other use cases on the platform right now. Yeah, we're like, I think we're like hardwired in our community or like in our society and the way that we do things to have like one size fits all solutions. But are we moving societally away from that? And then like how does tech support that? And like because like tech is all about speed and ease and comfort and like one-to-many solutions, right? So it's like, yeah, it's an interesting challenge. Very exciting to me because I used to work in tech and I'm like, oh, this is so different. And I can see all the ways that you could fall into like the regular grooves of how to do things, but do you want to do that?
I mean, there's so much gravity and inertia in those directions, like the way things are done. Yeah. And yeah, like I said at the beginning, it's like we've internally really resisted this moment, even though it's kind of necessary for our communities. Like communities need resources. And they need to be able to collect resources and decide what to do together. But there's so much danger and risk with putting something valuable where people can use it, and allowing money, American US dollars, to go through our beautiful little project. It's like, oh no, it's going to be tainted in some way, or it just feels dangerous and fraught. But I do think what's possible on the other side, like if we're able to build our collective budgeting tools in the next 6 months and we have the stewardship toolkit where people can say who they trust to hold the keys to the bank and so on, then you have like a totally different paradigm is possible. And I think the main thing that as it relates to the comments that I'm seeing around integrity and the risks is there's right now we're in a weird situation with Hilo where there's no intellectual property. It's open source. And basically there's Terran Collective, which is an LLC that manages the infrastructure to pay the 7 people who are working on it, mostly part-time. And that structure is not very defensible. Like if we built all this stuff today and all the resources were flowing through that structure, I mean, I trust the people on the team. We all have integrity, but it's like that is not like the end goal. what we really see as necessary to provide the integrity and structure that would guarantee, um, you know, alignment with the values that everyone on this call share is some sort of like what we're thinking right now is a dual structure. So like a foundation or some other entity that basically oversees and has power over the project, and then a different separate entity that is able to charge and make a profit that is either, majority owned or 100% owned by that foundation, but can receive investment, can charge money, doesn't have to rely on donations, because this is one of the part of the game theory of the nonprofit for-profit dynamic is that if you're a nonprofit, most of your money has to come from the public, the general public, donations. And if you get too many single big chunks of money from foundations or private individuals, you lose your nonprofit status. Basically, from the government's perspective, you're not serving the public, you're serving two people. And so, yeah, we want that dual structure to accommodate these two different activities. And even that comes with risks and dangers, but we see that working well for instance, like the Mozilla Foundation or the Wikipedia works this way. Yeah, I don't know if that was helpful to hear, but that's part of the thinking of what led us, or why we're here now. And in order to pull this off well, we're going to need to simultaneously build these features while restructuring in a way that provides more integrity.
Also, don't want to stop this conversation, but just partly because I want to get a better understanding of what Simon is asking, I'm going to bring in one more of our questions, which is sort of related, but brings in tracks, because I do think that the place that feels like most valuable to offer fees is for specific courses, even beyond membership subscriptions, which I think is a little more dicey, is we're bringing in like just how does that align with our values? So we have this question of like our thought is that all tracks would just be a one-time fee, like you pay whatever, $20 or $100 to access this course, and then you have access to it. So our question is there a case for subscription-based tracks? And we were thinking that probably a one-time fee covers it, as long as you can have subscription-based groups. Like there might be a school where you have to pay some kind of yearly fee to join, and then maybe some of the courses are free and some of them have additional fees, so on. So I want to bring that question in, and then I also, as part of that, wanted to understand a little bit better what you were asking, Simon, about track level rather than membership level.
I think it certainly sits in the same space. So the idea that you might have membership, which gives you access to some tracks, but actually the decision about whether or not those tracks are included in the membership is set as you set the track up. But equally, everything that we've talked about earlier, in the same rules that apply from a membership perspective, you would apply at tracks. So you've got an organization that's offering effectively free membership for those that can't pay, and also free tracks and or donation-led or payable tracks. If that's all, because again, I'm approaching all of this from it needs to be as accessible for anybody. And I get that you might want to allow a group to stipulate that themselves, but an organization needs to be able to run it so it's purely equitable, and they're not putting any constraints in place for somebody who can't financially afford that content. Is that clearer?
Yeah, I mean, maybe what I'm reading between the lines a little bit is like, yes, we want to support all those use cases, and what we currently have designed supports all of that, right? You could have a free group and you could have paid tracks, free tracks, or you could have a subscription group with all free tracks or some free tracks and some additional paid tracks, or all these things are possible and with what we currently have in our heads as our design. But I also hear the call for just kind of enabling and supporting more equitable structures and systems in general, and like how we design this can influence that significantly, like what actually Hilo is used for. So like we could not have tiers, right? We could just have one option, and that would with the option to have it be maybe sliding scale, or and that would kind of enforce equitable groups on Hilo, right? We wouldn't have the ability to have tiers. That's it's really interesting.
That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
I think I have an inherent anti-capitalist aversion to something that effectively almost subconsciously promotes a tiering system, I guess. I'm not quite sure what's in my gut about that. But I think if I think a base level option with memberships, and then the same kind of mechanics available, whether tracks are included or effectively premium at an individual level, is fine. But the idea of tiering, I think if you were tiering and then giving effectively additional access to a block of content, I think that possibly adds complexity to the model as well.
Yeah. Anita?
I think I'm hearing keep it simple to start. So rather than add a lot of complexity to a lot of different ways to do things with these fees, perhaps start simple, in terms of, offer just a few options so you can test out with the groups what they're liking and what they need going forward, because you're going to have so many different kinds of groups that are going to show up, and you won't know what you don't know until they show up and what they say they need. And some are not going to be a fit for Hilo, and they'll figure that out, and that's fine too. But there's just so many groups out there that need this kind of functionality, and they would prefer to be on a platform like Hilo. And they've been stuck on these other platforms for a while. And if they find out that you're now able to take payment, they're going to seriously consider Hilo now. That's my thinking.
Totally agree.
We had two other questions that I think feel a little bit less important. I mean, one more I could drop in, which is basically, do we want to have any paid group be kind of open to anyone to join? Or do we still want to have the same access settings we have now, where you can have invite only paid groups or restricted paid groups where people have to request to join? Anita?
I think you need to keep the same availability of how people create their group, because again, there's so many different groups who have different needs. Some need them private, some want them open. So that's my 2 cents.
That's also what I think, but what we were discussing. So um, 3 minutes left. Is there other feedback or questions that we have not gotten to at all? Alicia?
I just had a clarifying question. I was wondering where we landed on the tiering, or the different tracks.
I don't think we landed anywhere.
Okay.
I mean, tracks will definitely be separate from group subscriptions. Like, you'll be able to choose to charge for a track or not separately from group subscriptions. That I think is clear. The question of whether to offer tiers for group subscriptions, I mean, that was our plan, and Simon is questioning it, and now we're pondering it, and we'll keep thinking about it.
And what's a track?
A track is a newish feature that we just launched in Hilo for courses. So it's
Oh.
basically like a set of actions or modules or lessons, you can change the name, that anyone in the group can kind of go through and complete. And so we are going to allow groups to have a fee for a track that is totally separate. Like the group could be totally free to access, but then some of the tracks cost money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I just wanted to make sure before I added my point. I think in terms of tiers, we're really not into the idea of like exclusivity either, but one way that we've been thinking about our tiers is like the level of investment that our members want in the community. Because we offer so much and not everybody wants all of that. So like when we have like a set payment amount, which like, most tech companies or marketing generally suggest, they're like, you should have one payment because it makes things simple for everyone. And then they get access to everything. But not everybody wants to be invested with us in our community space or our workshops or like this or that. They just want like a little bit or they want a lot. And so like, I think in terms of, thinking about membership tiers, it's really about the investment that they want to make and allowing them to choose that level of investment and deepen into it and not be overwhelmed by things that they don't even want to have part in, versus like making it exclusive.
Yeah,
Totally.
I love that way of thinking.
Well, we're at time. Any final thoughts, Krisha? I know you maybe had a closing in mind.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. I mean, we're so open to additional thoughts and feedback. I think you can all comment on this doc, and we'll be sharing this in Building Hilo as well. The recording we'll be posting, and we'll take this feedback and synthesize it and adapt based off of what we're hearing. And in the coming weeks, we'll share a more final spec and when we'll be launching.
Thanks so
Thank you all
much
so
for
much.
inviting us into see how it's made into the process.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks
for
for your
us, it's
participation.
huge value to have you all here and support us in building this so it works for everyone.
Yeah.
This is super exciting, guys.
Yay.
Great conversation.
All right. Have a blessed day, y'all.
All right.
Likewise, everyone.
Bye.